All right, everyone. Good morning. I am Aaron Blumberg, SWFLN's Continuing Education Coordinator, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the next webinar in SWFLN's DigiRef Academy, Resources for the Natural Sciences. We have a wonderful learning opportunity ready for you this morning with Dr. Naomi Gold. In her most recent position, Naomi Gold served as the Assistant Dean for Learning and Outreach Services at the Walsh Library, Seton Hall University in South Orange, New Jersey. Prior to joining Seton Hall, she served as the first-year experienced librarian at the College of Staten Island and as reference, research, and outreach librarian at Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama. During her time in Alabama, she simultaneously served as an adjunct instructor in the School of Library and Information Studies at the University of Alabama. Please welcome Dr. Gold and enjoy her webinar this morning. Dr. Gold?
Thank you, Aaron, and good morning, everyone. Good morning to the entire SWFLN community. Aaron, thank you for your help this morning. Good morning, Luli, and good morning, Connie, and thank you for being here today and helping us to make this webinar as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. I'm particularly pleased to be offering this material today because it is so very important, so very current, and so very much on the radar of SWFLN in particular, as I'll be describing. So without further ado, I'm going to advance the slide, and I want to let you know in advance that at certain points, in order to best illustrate this material and to, I very much hope, create in you real excitement about some of the resources that we're going to be looking at together, I'm going to put URLs into the chat box. It is the most expedient way to share particular websites with you and to walk you through some of the most interesting features of those sites. And so I will ask you to follow along with me in that way. So please know that that will be happening. This is a very good opportunity for me to make you aware, if you are not already, of a kind of transitioning that's happening in education from an emphasis on STEM subjects to a more expansive emphasis on what is now known in many sectors as STEAM. STEM, of course, science, technology, engineering, and math are a group of subjects that have for quite a long time been recognized as essential both for students' own education and their own ability to function as productive citizens in our country and in the world, but also as areas in which our country in many ways has a lot of work to do. And so an emphasis on STEM education has been present in both government and educational circles for quite some time. That is to say that both private and public sectors, starting in the 20th and certainly into the 21st century, have recognized that the vital role of STEM education in our country and educational system, and our need to enhance that. The idea of adding STEAM that is to say, an arts component, has been gaining momentum, and I don't want to belabor the point too much, but I do want to make you aware that SWFLN is very much on the cutting edge of this. This is a transition and emphasis that is still in process, but SWFLN, as usual, is very much ahead of the curve, and will be offering on June 15th a learning opportunity specifically focused on bringing STEAM education to both educators and students. And so I invite you, it's called Getting STEAMy in the Library. And if for some reason living in South Florida that doesn't sound particularly like an enticing idea, please know that this is really, actually it's a very clever name. It's really about teaching library staff to prepare their own facilities for STEAM education enrichment. SWFLN has both educational and also in terms of objects such as 3D printers that are related to STEM and STEAM education, has those available for you. So if you do not know about this webinar, Getting STEAMy in the Library, please go to the SWFLN website and learn about it, because it is the wave of the future. It's where education is headed, and when you receive at the end of this webinar the set of slides that on which this presentation is based, you'll be able to explore the link that I have here, stem2steam.org, and to read more about how and why this enhancement, this more expansive view of STEM education has come about. So please do explore Getting STEAMy in the Library. We are going to be looking at a number of very specific, targeted resources for the natural sciences. But before we do that, I want to look at what I call the big picture. That is to say, resources that serve as a kind of, well, both for users, but more specifically for librarians, a kind of reader's advisory, or a way to discover some of the best web-based resources that are available. And I've discovered over the years and many years that I've been providing this kind of instruction that, as it happens, many library students and many working librarians happen not to know about these resources, and I'm sure you'll be glad to know about them. This first one is called the Internet Scout Report. I'm going to send you that URL so we can go and look at that together, and I want to say a few words about it. One moment, please. All right, there's that URL. If you would please take a moment to open a browser, and we'll look at that together, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the Scout Report. The Scout Report, or the Internet Scout Project, is based at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's actually based out of the Department of Computer Sciences, although please know that many librarians do work with the Scout Report project to evaluate and vet web-based materials, and they've been doing that since 1994, and in fact have published a weekly letter, a weekly email-based newsletter every Friday since 1994. This newsletter provides for you a very convenient, since it arrives in your email, and reliable way to stay informed about the best online resources. So let's have a look at what we have here. What the Scout Report will do is deliver to your inbox a selection of websites in a wide variety of topics. STEM/STEAM resources are among them, but the humanities and social sciences in all their various aspects are also represented. And these resources have been evaluated by both members of the Scout team in the Department of Computer Science, but also by librarians. And they are annotated. You will notice that if you go to the right-hand side that you can click on Current Scout Report. And you'll see an example. It's not an example. Indeed, it is the current Scout Report. I'm going to take a moment and make sure everybody sees that. If you're not seeing that, please raise your hand. The current Scout Report. Let's make sure we're all literally on the same page. We're all good? Are we all one? Vivi? Okay, let me bring you up to speed. Try that URL. All right, so this week under Research and Education, the Scout Report has offered us, oh, look at that, it's one, two, three, fourth one down from the NEA, the 10 best STEM resources. Under that, Evolution of Terrestrial Ecosystems program. And then the last one on that list, in that column, Women's Suffrage and the 19th Amendment. All right, so I point this out so that you'll get a sense of the variety of web-based resources that are brought to you every week by the Scout Report. And if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll notice that also every week the Scout Report presents a number of open access, freely available network tools for your consideration. If you look at that, again, I'm looking at that right-hand menu, we have current Scout Report. Please know that every past Scout Report going back to the 90s is also archived. And if you scroll down just a little bit more, so this is 1, 2, 3, the fourth from the bottom, you'll notice that there's a separate link for past science and engineering reports. So there's a lot of wonderful things about this resource, and here's the one that I want to emphasize the most. This constitutes a kind of almost a sort of reader's advisory for the web. If you've ever asked yourself, how can I possibly keep up with all of the new material that's being published on the web? More to the point, how can I stay on top of the best, the most worthwhile material that's being published on the web? How can one person do it, especially given all that you do in your libraries and the multiple functions you have? And the answer is you can't necessarily, but the Scout Report does a lot of that work for you. So I want to encourage you to go to the Scout Report page to, I was about to say enlist. You know, you're not enlisting, you're not giving your life away. Enroll for the weekly newsletter. It'll appear in your inbox, and take some time, depending on your own subject interests, to look at the past archived Scout reports in the various subjects as they're listed in that right-hand menu, and most particularly with regard to this particular webinar, those in science and engineering. As I said, a lot of the work is done for you, and I think that I know that you will find materials there that you will certainly want to integrate into your own web-based resources in your libraries, possibly into your own teaching. So the Scout Report, the gift that keeps on giving. That's merely a screenshot of the current Scout Report. You've already seen that. This is what it looks like. I mean, this is a screenshot of my own inbox. So you see I have various folders, and then on Friday mornings, there's my Scout Report, which I always review, and then I file away in some form. All right. Another item that constitutes the big picture that I want to talk about before I look at specific resources is this: what can I do with Google? There are a couple of very important advanced features that will serve you very well across a variety of disciplines, but most specifically with regard to today's topic with materials related to the natural sciences. So what I'd like us to do together, if you will give me a moment. If you would please go to this URL. Now, one of the reasons we're looking at advanced ways of searching is this. I've found actually more and more, and as perhaps many of you, that websites come and go, but search skills are forever. Most particularly, websites come and go. Many of you may remember the now sort of past and sadly gone Internet Public Library. Give me a show of hands if you knew about or used are still currently mourning the Internet Public Library. Can I get a show of hands, please? Yeah, we've got a couple of, at least two of you. As you'll know, that was also a very substantial portal of web-based materials that were evaluated by librarians. That was hosted on a library website that had materials that were specified for and suitable for all ages of students and for adults. And I loved it because it was a place where to which you could direct students for their research that sort of kept them off for the moment the wild west of the web, and that provide some assurance that what they were going to find was going to be of the kind of quality that was really going to enhance their education. However, alas, although the site is still up, it hasn't been taken offline. It's not being updated. Many of the links are broken, and it is no more. But the search skills that you have and will develop will be with you forever. And so what we're going to do for a moment is look at what we can do with a Google Advanced Search that specifies sites in the .edu domain. I hope you're all now on the Google Advanced Search page, and I want you to scroll down to the second section that begins narrow your results by. We have language, region, last update, and here's the one I want you to look at, site or domain. And under site or domain, I want you to please type .edu. I'm going to take a moment and let you do that. What this allows you to do is to search Google and to restrict your results only to sites that reside within educational institutions. Here's what you should know. Educational institutions, departments, individual professors, graduate students, research institutions publish an enormous amount of material on their respective university websites. There's an enormous amount of material that resides on university servers. And much of it is of very high quality. It is actually, it's all very high quality. More to the point, much of it is really useful and accessible for non-experts. It's not only course material, but it's, for example, as we'll see, material related to the periodic table that is presented in a very creative, innovative way that is useful for students of many different ages. Limiting your Google research in any topic to those sites that reside within the .edu domain is a wonderful way to winnow out some of the sort of less credible, less desirable materials that reside in the enormous world of the web, and to focus in on those of high quality. So having put .edu under site or domain, I'm going to go back up to the top to find pages with, and I'm going to type in a search. I'm going to type in global warming under find pages with all these words. All these words are global warming, and then go back down and click Advanced Search. I'm going to give you a moment to follow along. And what you're going to find when you perform a search, having specified .edu, is that every site that emerges in that search, every site resides on a college or university, or even possibly a high school website. And I'm looking at the list of topics here. So there's an entry on global warming from Stanford. There's an article called El Nino and Global Warming, What's the Connection? Here's one called Teacher's Guide on Climate Change and Global Warming. Teacher's Guide. Every single one of these resources is available via the open web to anyone who has an internet connection. And I encourage you, most specifically for today's topic, but also for any topic with which you're trying to help students or patrons, or about which you're trying to find resources to add to your own web links for your library, to work with this kind of search and see and discover the wonderful kinds of resources that will emerge from this kind of search. Can I get a show of hands if for the folks that have been able to follow along and see what it is that I'm talking about, grooving on, feeling the joy? Great. Very good. All right. The second thing I want you to know about, and I think many of you already do, is Google Scholar. I'm not going to belabor the point for too long, but there are a couple of important things I want to say about Google Scholar. I'm going to put in that URL right now. And why it's important, very particularly for science resources. There's that URL. Google Scholar is a subset of Google. Google, in its attempts to either take over the world or make the world safe for information, probably a little bit of both, has long had a subset of its, of course, very expansive search engine, Google Scholar, that searches only scholarly academic material. You will find that if you did a search for global warming using Google Scholar, you'll find some material that resides behind a paywall. I'll get with you in just a moment, Mary. But here's what I want to emphasize. Increasingly, scientific material and material in all aspects of STEM, I want to emphasize medical publications in particular, but in all aspects of STEM, are being published open access. What does that mean? It means that while they are scholarly and academic and probably are published in one of the fee-based scientific journals that can be found in most particularly academic libraries behind a paywall. In addition, many are being published on the open web. More and more. This is a growing phenomenon, and it's only going to continue to grow. And the reason is that much of the research that goes on in STEM subjects in colleges and universities goes on because of public funding. They're either grant-based, or certainly these colleges and universities receive public funding for their research. In order to publish their findings, in the past, researchers have had to submit them to scholarly journals, which are controlled by publishing companies, go through the process of having the respective review boards vet those materials, wait for them to be published, and then actually buy that research back from the publishing company in the form of journals, or as it's really now happens, materials that reside in online databases. So the universities produce the research material, offer it to the publishers review it, publish it, and then literally have sold it back to the university. And the cost, as you may know, in particular for STEM-based publications, has far outstripped the budgets of libraries. Well, once the web became a growing concern, once the web became so solidly integrated into academic life, researchers began to realize, hey, we don't have to wait for this particular publisher, for this particular journal to disseminate my research. We can do this much more quickly on our own, and open access publishing was born. What this means for you as librarians and as teachers is that using Google Scholar, you can find a very substantial and growing amount of STEM-based research, published research, via the open web. You're most likely to do it in an efficient way using Google Scholar, and it's for that reason that I bring that resource to my discussion of the big picture. It's also an important way to, both of these are important ways to teach patrons to search the web more skillfully in a more targeted way. So I encourage everyone to take some time this week to use those resources to look up some of your favorite, most interesting to you topics and see how they work for you. Mary, I've kept you waiting quite a long time, so if you have a question, please feel free to put that in the chat box. All right. There was an article last month called "The Complex Data on Girls in STEM" to which I want to draw your attention, because it's about so much more than the issue of girls and their, shall we say, performance in STEM subjects. Of course, the unfortunate relative absence of girls and women in STEM subjects has long been a topic of discussion. Why do girls often start out strongly in math and science subjects and drop out? Why are women underrepresented among STEM graduate students and faculty? That's a discussion that's been happening for a long time. From your point of view, or from all our point of view, this is a very expansive kind of article that, as I note at the bottom of this slide, offers a lot of excellent context regarding STEM education as a whole. It's very recent, it's very relevant, and I wanted to be sure to bring it to your attention. So when you get hold of these slides, please do go to that URL. You could also merely do a Google search for "complex data on girls in STEM" as a title, and read that, and it will provide you with very valuable background information about this important topic. All right. Now we're going to start focusing on a number of very specific sites. And the first one is the acronym AMSR, Applied Math and Science Education Repository. It's funded by the National Science Foundation, so thinking about credibility and quality, we can feel pretty good about that. And guess what? It was created by a team of partners led by none other than the Internet Scout. It contains an abundant number of free online resources for classroom teaching. And we're going to take a quick look at that together so you can see what it is that I'm talking about. So, one moment, please. I'm going to take you to AMSR. All right, let's look at that together. I'll let you get to the site. This is what it looks like. It can seem slightly daunting at first. I want to encourage you that the learning curve is worth your time. The learning curve is less than you may expect given one's initial view of that page. Whenever I see something that says login, my heart sinks a little bit, but don't let that discourage you here. If you're at all involved in STEM education or in gathering STEM resources for your library, it is well worth it for you to create a username and password. I know we all have too many of them, but just get one more because it will allow you to save your searches. But don't let that put you off. For the past 48 hours, by the way, the resources button next to home that link has not been working. At least it's not working on my end. So I'm not going to take you there. But what I'd like us to do is go up to that search box at the very top of the screen and type in periodic table. You're going to see other resources today related to the periodic table. I have a minor obsession or preoccupation with the periodic table. I'm going to let you all do that. Type in periodic table in the search box, and let's see what AMSR can do for you. So I'm going to type go, and what you should be seeing is this page. I put the link there for you. Now, very importantly, notice to the left that there's a whole row of facets. That is to say, ways in which you can narrow your search. I love that you can do it by language, but the one that I really want to draw your attention to is the one called resource type, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the seventh one down. Click on the plus sign, and among all of those options, the one that I want to draw your attention to is, and fortunately if these are alphabetized, which is very convenient, lesson plans. This is just one small example of how you can use this resource to look for lesson plans. I've done it with a number of other topics, among them global warming. And clicking on lesson plans will, not surprisingly, bring up a series of, as we know from what the resource type list has told us, there are 6 lesson plans. But going back to this general search that we've done, before we clicked on lesson plans, please note the interesting variety of materials that emerge in this search. Much more efficient, as I like to emphasize, efficient and targeted way to find high quality, actually the best quality resources in this area because these have already been evaluated for you. And just as the Scout report entries are annotated, these are annotated. I love the first one. There's an animated periodic table of the elements, and that's the very first option. And we know that there are 68 results here. I invite you, in addition to resource type, to do some of your own searches and to look at some of the other facets here, particularly audience. So if you click on audience, you'll see that everyone from college and university instructors to middle school teachers to even there's one link for remedial students are all represented here under audience. It's all there for you. You do not need to go into the wilds of the web to do this kind of searching for materials. So I hope you're feeling the love with me, because it's a great site, and I think it'll be very useful for you. Yeah, Amy, I hope I just got back to my Adobe Connect and saw your question. I hope I just responded to that question. Okay, great. The answer is there's something for almost everyone is the happy answer. All right. Another site that I want to alert you to is called Understanding Science. It comes from UC Berkeley, so we can feel pretty good about that. I very much like the way this page is organized. Understanding Science 101 really appeals to me. And some of the pardon me, the topics that are listed under there under quick links. What is science? How science works? That really appeals to me. It appeals to me personally, but it also appeals to me as, say, a potential educator, that some of the most basic science themes and concepts and ideas for teaching them can be found on this site. Of course, as you see that there's a separate link here for teachers, and then there's a research library. And we're going to look at this together for a moment. One moment, please. Here's that link. One of the other things I like about this page is that there's something about the design that tells me that it'd be more accessible to a greater variety of students. So for example, I would say possibly a junior high school class or high school class. That design of Understanding Science 101 seems very accessible to me. One of the things that this page does particularly well is that it offers a lot of resources for learning about the process of science before students begin to really become interested in or to delve into scientific projects. Of course, the memorization and sheer cognitive skill that is involved in learning science. I think it's important for everyone, and students most of all, to understand science as a process. This resource provides, as did the previous one, also a variety of teaching resources. In particular, case studies for specific scientific discoveries, and you'll be glad to know, lesson plans for every grade level. So on this main page under For Teachers, you'll notice there are quick links, and it's spelled out in a very clear and intuitive way. So K2, 3, 5, 6, 8 in terms of levels, and then there's a specific link for teaching tools. I'd also like to bring your attention to the fact that this site has is represented on iTunes. And you're going to see further on that a number of the sources that we're going to look at are also represented on YouTube. And at one time I asked myself, well, why the duplication? Is it just for the sake of duplication? Is it just a cool factor? Why is this important? And I've come to the conclusion that these kind of duplications or mirror sites, it's not actually not an entire mirror site on iTunes, but a website's materials that reside on iTunes or YouTube are important for this reason. And I really can't articulate it any better than by saying that a lot of times that's where the kids are. They may not groove on, be interested in, be naturally drawn to going to a website, but I can just about guarantee that almost every young person we know uses YouTube. So the idea that there are materials from these very well developed, quite sophisticated, and shall we say, very high quality websites that reside in places such as YouTube and iTunes, where students are already doing a lot of things, probably most of them, shall we say, what's the word I'm looking for? Listening to music and recreational. That's the word I'm looking for. A lot of what they do, actually, a lot of what we all do on YouTube is recreational. If some of this educational material is also in that place where they're already spending time, it's all to the good. And so that's how I came to understand why that's important. This is an example of one of the things at which this site really excels. This is a simple kind of flow chart, but it's a flow chart that illustrates how science works. And a teacher, whether you or a science teacher, could recreate this, but you could also project this onto a screen in a classroom to illustrate this sort of very basic outline of the workings of the scientific method. This is just one example of the kinds of illustration material, explanatory image material that resides on this UC Berkeley site. It also is, in my opinion, it's remarkably uncluttered for a site that's so content rich, which is well, always a great plus for me, because too much material on a website can be very distracting and counterproductive. So I encourage you once again to explore this site. It's really, I think you'll find it actually enjoyable and not merely an exercise in learning how to be not merely a professional duty, but something that you'll really enjoy. This next site, here we have another acronym, PhET, Interactive Simulations for Science and Math. Why is it called PhET? Well, because it started out as physics education technology. It is now much more expansive and covers many other subjects, but they never changed the name. So PhET it was, and PhET it stays. And I will take you to that site in just a moment. All right, here we are. Now, we've already seen two sites that seem very comprehensive and that contain a lot of the kinds of materials we're already looking for. What does this one have to offer us that those don't? Well, there are some simulations in the UC Berkeley site, but the whole purpose in life for this site is to offer visual simulations related to science and math topics. And uh, for someone like me, for example, those visual simulations, actually seeing in a very concrete way what a particular scientific concept or what a particular mathematical formula means in the world, in physical space, is vital to the learning process. And I dare say that it's probably vital to the learning processes of most or all students. And that is the purpose of this site, which resides at the University of Colorado. So once again, we can feel very confident about its quality. If you're at the PhET site right now, you'll notice that a number of different simulations are cycling through your page. I'm now looking at one called John Travoltage, which is very amusing. The movements of a wave. There's a simulation regarding color vision. I never did understand what color blindness is. Energy skate energy skate basics. So we have what looks like a skateboard park and a simulation of an explanation of the physics of that. It's a very innovative and useful and fun teaching tool, and because many of the kinds of examples that are offered and their verbal descriptions are clever and funny, I think it will really appeal to students. So I want to make you aware of it. It's something that should be in your STEM toolbox. I'm going to take you to this page in just a moment. From the main page, and I want to go back to addressing an earlier question, you'll see that there's a link next to what is PhET. The link is titled Teaching Resources. So under Browse Activities, you'll find a master list of all of the various simulations, that is all of the topics that are covered currently in this website. One moment, please. Sorry for the delay. I'm trying to get back to a particular page. So, for example, if you should choose physics, and I'll take you to that page. If you should choose physics as your topic, what will emerge is the page that you'll see here. And I like the way these are. I mean, there's a list, but there are a list with these visual icons. uh, a list with visual icons, and then a list at the on the sort of a menu on the left-hand side of topics: motion, sound waves, quantum phenomena, and again, having chosen physics, I will see that there is a separate link for grade level, specifically for grade level. This is yet another site that I don't want to talk about, say, learning curve. There's an abundance of activities that requires a certain amount of time to review, but is well worth your effort. And it's a very, yet again, a very resource-rich site. And visually rich site in particular, because that's its primary purpose. Aha! Oh, I've just noticed Vivi's comment. Well, well, thank you for your enthusiasm, and thank you, SWFLN, for making the opportunity possible. I thought you'd all be pretty excited about this. This is actually some of the material that is available in this area is quite exceptional. So I'm glad you're feeling the joy with me. All right. I took merely a screenshot here of showing. You'll notice this is, of course, this is a moving image illustrating how gravity and orbits work. All right, going to move along. I'm going to leave FET for a moment and talk about a couple of resources related to the periodic table. I'm shall we say, calling this one out from the University of Nottingham, because I don't think I've ever seen a group of people have so much fun with chemistry, number one. Number two, because I have a personal love of and fascination with the periodic table. And so let's have a quick look at this together, and notice too that not only does this reside, this site, which is from the University of Nottingham, not only does it reside on its website, but it has a YouTube channel. I say in my link here, why YouTube too? We'll discuss what we have discussed, and let me take you there so you can see what it is that I'm so excited about. This is the periodic table of videos. For each one of the elements in the periodic table, as we now know it, these clever and enterprising people who love chemistry so much have created a little video that is both fun and educational. And well, fun is not something that many of us associate with the subject of chemistry, but these folks sure do, and this is a great way to communicate that to your students. I'm just going to look at this. I'm going to click on one for a moment. One moment, please. Actually, I'll allow you to click on any one of those elements, and it will take you to a video. And so there's a video, and then beneath it there is specification about the name of the element, its symbol. I'm on indium right now, and its atomic number. This video is under 2 minutes long, and they're all very they're very whimsical, and I want to be sure that you know about them. And this you'll notice there's a link here to this. There's a YouTube channel that's devoted entirely to all of the videos that are created on the website. So these folks are very dedicated to chemistry and to spreading the good word about the elements. Do notice that in addition, there are new videos that are produced almost every week related to science news, particular molecules and other chemically related topics. So this is not a stagnant site. These folks keep on giving. More about chemistry, adventures in chemistry. Now, clearly, based on I have a screenshot here. Based on this design, this really looks like a site for elementary school, possibly junior high, especially Time for Slime. I mean, what 12-year-old isn't interested in slime? Um, I loved it. One of the reasons I took this particular screenshot was just to demonstrate what this site produced by the American Chemical Society, what the extent to which it will go to try to get students' attention. So diapers, the inside story. I think we all know that kids are kind of fascinated with well, slime and scatological matters, shall we say. And so the way that they've set up, the way that they've annotated their various materials here is really appealing for younger kids. Actually, not just younger kids, frankly. I find it appealing. Now, the fact that this is the American Chemical Society is something that needs to be discussed briefly. One of the ironies is that the journal of the American Chemical Society, that is the one for grown-ups that universities often subscribe to, is one of the very most expensive journals that any university library subscribes to. So much so that I've been in situations where in meetings in which librarians have had to well, been pulling out their hair and thinking about where they can make cuts in order to afford the ACS journal. It's very a very singular journal. It's the one go-to gold standard resource that chemistry departments cannot do without. And it's produced by the American Chemical Society. But in its interests in educating future generations about this topic and appealing to younger students, it has created this website. This website, like the others we've looked at, and I hope I don't sound like a broken record, also contains lesson plans, but in addition, activities and games, and those, as I say, geared to younger students. I want to emphasize that as with PhET, which started out looking at just at physics, solely at physics, Adventures in Chemistry has expanded to include materials related to anatomy, geology, and physics. So if, for example, you knew you were dealing with a class of 8 to 9-year-olds, this might be the place you'd want to come to first, and then to some of those others later. I like to think about the right tool for the right job, and this Adventures in Chemistry is a tool geared for younger students that comes from, as it happens, an organization that represents the gold standard in chemistry education. So, there we have it. I'm going to take a short break, actually not a break so much as to alert you to, if I don't know, how many of you, give me a show of hands, how many people have heard of Tom Lehrer? Got a couple people. All right. Tom Lehrer, he's still alive. He is a real live mathematician. I think he's at University of California, Santa Cruz. But in the 1960s, in addition, he's gifted in so many ways that it's really hard to comprehend. He was, as Daniel Radcliffe, that's Harry Potter to you, has said, maybe the cleverest and funniest man of the 20th century. He wrote, he's a very gifted pianist and writer of satiric song lyrics. At that time, during the 1960s, a lot of them had to do with war and pollution. One of his most famous and atomic, well, the threat of atomic war. One of his most famous songs is titled "We'll All Go Together When We Go," and one of his very famous songs is set to a Gilbert and Sullivan tune from Pirates of Penzance. The original song is I Am the Very Model of a Modern Major General. I'm sure, Aaron Blumberg, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he wrote a song enumerating the entire periodic table in song. And it's delightful. And Daniel Radcliffe recently on a talk show demonstrated how he had actually memorized this entire song and he performed it. And it's tons of fun. And why am I telling you about this? Well, I think students would really groove on this. And I think it could be a really interesting challenge to ask students to watch the video. There are various versions of the video. There are videos showing Tom Lehrer actually performing it, and then there's audio accompanied by the names and pictures of each element. Why not challenge students to memorize the entire periodic table? It is entirely possible. It can be done, and then offer them some kind of prize. I'll just stop by saying there has never been, nor will there ever be, anyone like Tom Lehrer. He actually gave up the music part of his career really in the late 60s, early 70s. Doesn't do it so much anymore, but he broke the mold for that kind of very clever satiric writing, and he went on to having a career as a mathematician. So check those out and see if you don't find them completely delightful. Yeah. I knew you would, Aaron. So if you haven't seen these, they're quite addictive and possibly educational. I think also educational. I know educational, or else I wouldn't have included them here. So there you go. All right, I have a few more sites I want to tell you about. I would be remiss, shall I say, in not bringing them to your attention, although I think that you already have a rather comprehensive group of tools at your disposal. But the American Association for the Advancement of Science has created a site that allows you to find science lessons and tools specifically for K-12. We'll look at that together. One moment, please. All right, getting there, and here we go. One of the things that you may find attractive about this site is that it presents you with a search box immediately. Well, for many types of searchers, and especially I think if you have not a great deal of time and you haven't had the opportunity to explore those other sites, this may be a good option for you to look for something quickly. Also note, if you've gone to that page, at the very top of the screen, there are a set of 5 menu items, and if you click on Lessons, you will also find a quick and intuitive set of options. Not even a set, there's actually 2 options. There's grades and themes. The issue of grade level came up earlier, and once again this site has recognized this and made it really easy for you to winnow down, for example, a set of chemistry lessons for 5th or 6th grade. And because this comes from the American Association for the Advancement of Science, not only would I be remiss in not bringing it to your attention, but we also, very importantly, can feel confident about its quality. This lower picture represents the screen we just viewed, but I wanted to bring to your attention the fact that Science Netlinks received an award from the American Library Association. And after this webinar is concluded, I invite you to go look at that and see how that came about. It was another reason why, at the risk of being seeming repetitive, I thought that it was very important to bring this site to your attention. I would also be remiss to omit this site from the Smithsonian Institution. Not surprisingly, this being the Smithsonian Institution, the subjects covered are pretty expansive: anatomy, astronomy, geology, physics, and zoology, in addition to chemistry, but most specifically these sites. And it includes targeted material for both educators and students, including games and videos. One moment, please. So if you care to look for a moment, this is what it looks like. And it starts out, the splash page starts out by taking you to what's new and cool, but you can, right at the top, the 3rd menu item over, explore specifically by topic, which is usually, when you already have a topic in mind, what you want to do. In terms of lesson planning and in terms of creating materials specifically for educational purposes, you'll probably want to go to one of the other sites first and use this one as for enhanced content. Because it's not quite as it's not organized for the kind of quick retrieval that some of the other sites are. But the Smithsonian is our national museum, and I wanted to make you aware of this. Our very own government, kids.gov, also has a science education site that is more intuitively organized than the Smithsonian site. We'll look at that All right. And there's that URL. And one of the things you're going to notice about it is that it's really targeted for K-12. It's really kids.gov, and well, I guess at least by the evaluation of this site, you stop being a kid when you're 5. Now, that's probably not true. But if you're looking specifically for K-5 material, you might want to start here. Again, I'm thinking about the right tool for the right job. And if that's your particular task, K-12 is your particular task or your particular audience, you'll want to start here. Now you'll notice that right next to it, there's a separate link for teens grade 6-8. And you'll also notice this site, there's a lot of, it's one of those sites with a lot of content, but that's quite intuitively organized. So I like that play games there's just a link that says play game. Learn stuff, play games, watch videos. And for a certain type of audience, that really appeals to me. And I can imagine that there are certain type of audiences with which you'll be dealing to which, or to whom that will really appeal. So know that that's available. I think I'm getting close to the end here. You've been very patient. So let me say a few words about how stuff works. This is a site I've been using for a long time. And you'll notice when you go to How Stuff Works, there's advertising. And you may wonder, well, what's up with this? I'm always suspicious of any site that has advertising. And so I wanted to say some things on its behalf. I've used it myself a lot in the past. There's always much more material on this site than I'm capable of taking in. But so when I say used it, I mean browsed certain topics. But it was started by a professor in 1998, and he's gone on to develop a site that has won awards and that has been recognized as a reliable and, not to speak of, accessible source of explanations for an almost endless variety of scientific and technological phenomena. One of the important things that I want you to know about this site, which I'm sure many of you are already familiar with, you may have come across it just in your travels through the web, is that very importantly, this site provides a list of author bios and their credentials. So it's one of those tricky areas of the web. There are sites that contain advertising that are nonetheless credible. And well, how do you discover that they're credible? Well, you look for certain features of the site and a history of the site explaining its origins and a list of authors explaining the author's respective credentials is one of those important features, and this site contains those. Actually, give me a show of hands. How many people have come across, or heard of How Stuff Works? That's at least 3. Those of you who haven't, once again, I guess this would be easier for you if you had absolutely nothing else to do. If you had nothing else to do the rest of the week, you could just spend your time exploring these sites, but that's why you'll have the PowerPoint, and eventually the migration of these links to the DigiRef corner part of the SWFLN website. This is a very fun site. It's a sort of site you can get lost in exploring the material on it. So for both yourselves and for prospective patrons and students, I want you to know that it's a well-regarded site that you can feel good about bringing into your library or classroom. Yes, I've talked about this. I'll just say again, nearly almost all of the articles have actual bylines, and almost all of the articles have some kind of explanation about how to cite it, which is very impressive. Almost all of the articles also have a publication date. I've included this information here as a slide because these 4 elements, the approach to writing, the longevity of a site, the transparency in authorship, and the transparency in the age of articles written and presented, are very useful markers for evaluating other types of websites about which you may have questions. So you can use this as a guide for the evaluation of other sites that have advertising and about which you may wonder, well, really, should we be using this? It's 11:16, and I think I need to really start winding up so that I can start maybe addressing some of your questions or comments. How Stuff Works, you should know, is also present on YouTube, and I've talked about how I had asked myself, well, really, do we need that kind of replication? I do think, as I was saying earlier, it's more likely that certain types of users are going to find and view and make use of and learn from these kinds of sites if they have a kind of mirror site on YouTube. From the University of Nottingham Chemistry Department to some of this material on how stuff works. So I want to encourage you, when you include these links in your own, among your own library materials, include the YouTube link and let folks know, especially the young folks, let them know that it's on YouTube. I think there's going to be a much sort of easier transition and automatic connect to the YouTube factor. And because I know that we're all very eager about and devoted to getting these kinds of materials into the hands and more to the point, into the heads of our patrons and students by whatever means necessary, whatever works works for me, whether it's a formal website or YouTube. I wanted to bring to your attention, you can look for this later, that there's a How Stuff Works YouTube video about the presence of Nile crocodiles in Florida. I thought you would all want to know this. It would be remiss of me to not alert you to this. I suppose you're all really used to the appearance, well, especially in the news, of creatures that appear in various venues in Florida that really shouldn't be there, or one wonders how they got there. Well, please look up later this YouTube video about the presence of Nile crocodiles in Florida. My guess is they were once somebody's baby house pets that got released into the system. But so watch, learn, and I want to say be careful out there. Amy Hauptman, there's an app as well for How Stuff Works. Is that what you're conveying to us? Great. I neglected to mention that, or I neglected to notice it. So there's I don't make a lot of use of apps, but I know many people do, and I'm sure many younger library patrons do. So thank you for mentioning that. I think for some people, if you mention there's an app, that will be the hook that sort of, shall we say, reels them in to the use of the site. So Nile crocodiles, be careful, folks. Finally, speaking of YouTube, there's a YouTube video. There's a YouTube channel called The SciShow, and I love what they've done here. So why avocados shouldn't exist, that, and psychology in trouble, and why do we procrastinate? I didn't procrastinate, and I watched that one first. It's youtube.com/users/scishow. Uh, I won't belabor the point about the various ways in which these can be used in teaching to draw students in to create interest in certain subjects, to provide basic overviews. But I will just invite you to explore that yourself and see what kind of potential may exist there for you. I have 11:21. We have officially 9 minutes left for questions, comments, suggestions, or if you I know many of you are at work and need to get back to work, but I would be very happy via text here if you care to communicate with me. Also, please do note that my email address is there on this slide, nagold@yahoo.com. Feel free to note it down and be in communication with me, because I'll be glad to hear from you. I will be creating a section on my little site that lists these specific resources, as I have for other resources that I presented for SWFLN's DigiRef Academy. In closing, I'd like to thank everyone at SWFLN for their support of libraries and librarians in your region. Most importantly, Luli Castro, who works tirelessly on behalf of the library community and works very hard to bring these kinds of educational opportunities to you. And thank you to Aaron and everyone at SWFLN who always helps me with my own technological issues, and to Connie. Watch out for Nile crocodiles, and I'll be happy to stay online for a while. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Gold, for a wonderful webinar. We were very lucky to have been able to participate in this learning opportunity. Some great information and a sneak peek of what is coming up. Attendees, be sure to sign up for Dr. Gold's next Swift DigiRef Academy webinar on July 7th, which will be Resources for Genealogy. Also, the next webinar of SWFLN's Diversity Discovery Institute, T is for Taking Action, will take place on Friday, June 17th. And the next STEAM webinar, The Arts of STEAM, will take place on June 15th. We also encourage you to look ahead to September 8th, where Dr. Gold will be coming to the SWFLN area to teach 2 half-day face-to-face workshops. The morning will cover Reader's Advisory, and the afternoon will focus on the humanities. These workshops will be highly interactive and allow you to learn and practice digital reference skills along with getting knowledge of free online resources for these subjects. We encourage you to look at the upcoming webinars and workshops in months ahead and hope you are able to join us for future training opportunities. We also ask that you please feel free to keep checking the SWFLN Continuing Education calendar on our website, the Florida Statewide Training Calendar, the SWFLN Facebook page, and follow us on Twitter, or look for your message from the Florida Library listserv. Thank you all for attending and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie. Always nice to see you.
No problem. You too.